Your brain is not broken. It is doing exactly what it was designed to do, and that design is quietly destroying your financial life. The same survival mechanism that kept your ancestors alive on the savannah is the exact reason you cannot pull the trigger on the investment, the business, the bet on yourself. This is the wealth code. And before this video is over, I am going to show you a specific cognitive trick, used by some of the wealthiest investors alive, that rewires how your brain evaluates risk in real time. Stay for that. In 1979, two psychologists ran an experiment that should have changed everything about how we think about money. Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky gave participants a simple choice. Option A, a guaranteed $500. Option B, a 50% chance at $1,000, or nothing. Mathematically, these options are identical. But over 80% of people chose the guaranteed $500. Every single time. Then they flipped it. Lose $500 for certain, or take a 50% gamble to lose nothing at all. Suddenly, people became risk seekers. The same people who ran from risk to protect a gain sprinted toward risk to avoid a loss. This was not random. This was a pattern so consistent, so universal, that Kahneman won the Nobel Prize for it. And the financial industry has been quietly exploiting it ever since. Here is what nobody in mainstream finance will say out loud. You are not bad with money because you lack discipline or financial literacy. You are bad with money because you are human, and being human, in the modern financial system, is a liability. Your brain was forged over 200,000 years to survive scarcity, not to build wealth. It was never meant for compound interest, index funds, or 30-year investment horizons. It was meant to keep you alive today. And in that context, financial paralysis is not a flaw. It is a feature. The problem is, the world changed. Your brain did not. Kahneman and Tversky called it loss aversion. The core finding is brutal in its simplicity: losses feel roughly twice as painful as equivalent gains feel pleasurable. Losing $100 does not feel like the mirror image of gaining $100. It feels like losing $200. Your brain is running a permanently skewed accounting system, one that is hardwired to prioritize pain avoidance over gain pursuit. This is why people hold losing stocks too long and sell winners too early. It is why people stay in jobs they hate for decades. The pain of the certain loss, the paycheck disappearing, outweighs the abstract pleasure of the potential gain. Then there is status quo bias, documented by researchers William Samuelson and Richard Zeckhauser in 1988. People overwhelmingly prefer the current state of affairs, even when change is objectively better for them. In one study, when people were given a hypothetical inheritance invested in a specific portfolio, they kept it. Even when a clearly superior portfolio was available. Because changing felt like loss. Staying felt like safety. And finally, the availability heuristic. Kahneman identified this too. Your brain evaluates risk not by calculating actual probability, but by how easily a scary outcome comes to mind. You see a news headline about someone losing everything in crypto. That image is vivid, emotional, memorable. So your brain treats it as highly probable, even if the base rates say otherwise. Fear becomes data. And bad data drives bad decisions. Now here is where it gets darker. Because these biases are not just natural, they are cultivated. The financial media runs on fear. CNBC, Bloomberg, every financial news outlet, their business model is attention. And nothing captures human attention like threat. Loss. Danger. A headline that reads "Markets rise steadily" gets ignored. A headline that reads "Your retirement is at risk" gets clicked, shared, and remembered. So the media has an economic incentive to keep your loss aversion permanently activated. Banks do the same thing, differently. The savings account exists to make you feel safe. A 0.5% interest rate on a savings account feels like protection. It is psychologically satisfying. Your money is there, visible, insured, untouchable. But at 4% annual inflation, that account loses purchasing power every single year. The bank profits from the spread. You feel secure. You are quietly getting poorer. The system is working exactly as designed. And schools do not teach this. Not because the curriculum designers forgot. Because financially literate citizens are harder to sell to, harder to keep in debt, and harder to keep working jobs that primarily benefit someone else. The poverty trap is not just economic. It is neurological. And it is maintained, deliberately, by institutions that profit from your paralysis. Retention peak. But here is the part that will actually change how you see money. Wealthy people are not less afraid of loss than you are. That is the myth that keeps ordinary people stuck, the idea that the rich have some emotional superiority, some fearlessness that you simply were not born with. Research from the University of Cambridge, led by economist Elaine Liu, found that high-net-worth individuals show the same neurological fear response to financial loss as everyone else. The amygdala fires. The cortisol spikes. The fear is real. The difference, and this is the part that should rewire something in you, is that wealthy people have learned to make the decision before the fear arrives. They set rules in advance. They decide under conditions of calm what they will do under conditions of panic. They build what behavioral economists call pre-commitment devices, systems that remove the emotional brain from the moment of decision entirely. Warren Buffett does not decide whether to sell during a market crash. He decided that before the crash ever happened. His rules are older than the crisis. Your brain will always feel the fear. The question is whether the fear gets a vote. And for most people, because nobody ever told them this, the fear is the only voice in the room. Wealthy people think in expected value, not worst-case scenarios. This is the cognitive pattern that separates them, not confidence, not greed, not luck. Expected value means you multiply each possible outcome by its probability and add them together. A 70% chance at $1,000 minus a 30% chance at $200 is a positive expected value bet. Most people will not take it, because the 30% loss scenario feels vivid and real. Wealthy people run that calculation emotionally detached. They have trained themselves to see a portfolio of bets, not individual outcomes. One loss does not define the system. The system defines the outcome over time. They also practice what psychologist Gabrielle Ettingen calls mental contrasting, deliberately imagining both the positive outcome and the specific obstacles between them and it. Not just visualizing success. Visualizing success and the exact friction that will try to stop it. This sounds minor. It is not. Research shows it dramatically increases follow-through on financial decisions, because the brain has pre-processed the discomfort and is no longer surprised by it. And they reframe risk asymmetry. Instead of asking what could go wrong, they ask what is the cost of not acting. The lost decade of compounding. The business never started. The salary never negotiated. Inaction has a price. They make that price visible. 1. Write your investment rules before you need them. Decide your criteria for buying, holding, and selling before the market moves. Before the news cycle terrifies you. Before your emotions have an opinion, put them in writing. Then treat the document like a contract with your future self, not a suggestion. 2. Quantify your inaction. Every financial decision you are avoiding has a measurable cost. Calculate it. If you have had $10,000 sitting in a 0.5% savings account for 5 years while the S&P 500 averaged 10% annually, open a spreadsheet and make that difference real. Fear shrinks when you make the cost of safety visible. 3. Use the October 10 rule before any major financial decision. Ask yourself, how will I feel about this choice in 10 minutes, in 10 months, in 10 years? This forces your brain out of the immediate emotional response and into time-expanded thinking. Loss aversion is loudest in the present tense. Quiet it by changing the time frame. 4. Separate research from decision-making. Never consume financial news and make financial decisions in the same session. The availability heuristic is most dangerous when the scary information is fresh. Read in the morning. Decide in the afternoon, or the next day. Physical and temporal separation weakens the emotional contamination of your decisions. The brain that keeps you safe and the brain that builds wealth are the same brain, and you have to choose, every single day, which one is driving. Evolution gave you a brain that is magnificent at survival and genuinely terrible at long-term wealth creation. That is not an insult, it is a starting point. The people winning financially are not smarter or braver. They have simply built systems that protect their decisions from their own emotions. You can do the same thing, starting today, with the 4 steps in this video. If this shifted something for you, subscribe, because tomorrow we go even deeper. Next, watch our video on why your social circle is statistically the single biggest predictor of your net worth, and what to do if you were born into the wrong one. This is the Wealth Code.